and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who is definitely not the reason that this show is coming out about 12 hours late. Taylor Rockwell, hello.
I mean, I'm not. The reason is that power cords are difficult to operate.
Yeah, so
I am the reason 100%, to clarify.
We did record a Champions League review show yesterday. But before we hit save, one of the members of the Total Soccer Show production crew accidentally unplugged our computer.
Yes.
There was no recovery file. Before the tech guys email in, there was no recovery file. No. We look for
Conspiracy Taylor wants to believe that there was like something that Instinct Taylor knew was horribly wrong, and so I unplugged the wrong cord. But yeah, basically I went to unplug my computer and instead unplugged both my computer and the computer that we used to record. But then it's okay. The save file was there. That was wonderful.
It was empty, right?
It was empty.
Right.
It was the length. It was a mocking saved file.
So I do a mocking saved
file. It was the length of the recording with no audio.
30 minutes of nothing. Right?
Perfect.
So it's like a bad review. That's like a 1-star iTunes review.
Yeah, exactly.
So are we doing a weird podcast faux pas here? Because I always, when I listen to podcasts and they start talking about how technical difficulties, I always think, just get on with it. Just get on with it. But for some reason, I feel compelled to explain to listeners why this show is a day late.
Yeah, I do too, especially because I put out like an Instagram post last night from our practice, and then somebody was like, that's great, when's the show coming out? I was like, oh, that's my bad.
That's great.
That's on me.
Well, that's the reason we couldn't re-record, right? Because we had a practice to go to. So shall we cast our minds back?
I think we should talk a little bit more about the recording process and everything that goes into it, the layout of the office, all that good stuff.
Actually, Ryan Marzak had questions about podcast production, which we will answer on a future Total Soccer show.
We will not do that because we've got Champions League to talk about. Champions League is back.
Yeah, so it was on Turner Sports for the first time ever.
Yeah, so if you weren't watching Champions League, it's because you were thinking it was still on Fox?
Yeah, watching Fox Sports 1 and being very confused. I've had a few people remind us, including Travis Clark, that it's also on Univision Deportes. I think all games are available on Univision Deportes on their website and their app as well.
Yep.
Champions League is very available.
It is, and then you have the Bleacher Report Live option, subscription fee, but then you can stream any game in the Champions League as well as Scottish games and Cup games and
2 or 3
Belgian games.
Yeah, 2 or 3 Belgian games a week.
Cool.
The Swiss Cup.
You can watch Kenny Saif play and Ethan Horvath not play.
That's interesting.
Perfect.
One of those is more fun to do than the other. Can we talk about what we saw on TNT? Because that's where the Barcelona PSV and the Liverpool PSG games both aired. I think I mostly liked it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw some complaints. I quite like Stu Holden and Steve Nash doing a quick sort of tactical overview before the games, letting you know what to look out for.
Yep.
I thought Carlos Bocanegra was supremely confident. That V-neck was a choice. And he was... Do you remember him saying, like, I don't know if we can do this, but can we get a replay of that thing we just watched? Like, he was controlling the production room.
He sure was.
Asking for things that he didn't know were possible.
He sure was.
Gooch was a little nervous, I felt, which is weird, right? You think of him as this staring down Jared Borghetti, ice in his veins type guy, but just a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and it's always confusing.
Kate Abdul was a usual professional self.
Of course she was. But you have 3 people in Atlanta, 2 people in LA. That always makes it a little bit difficult. We'll say growing pains. We'll see how it goes today. I'm guessing there'll be some new faces today, Wednesday, when we're recording.
Oh, I think they'll just get the reps with the same people.
Right,
we'll find out. So you'll find out later today. We'll have a Wednesday show reviewing the Wednesday Champions League.
That is accurate.
Right, biggest game of the day.
Unless I ruin it again.
Unless you ruin it again. Biggest game of the day, definitely Liverpool PSG. We're beyond the spoiler territory, right?
Yeah.
It was yesterday.
It was.
We can say Liverpool won 3-2, 91st minute winner for Roberto Firmino, who came off the bench, scored a goal, did the optician test.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, playing with a scratched eye. I liked it.
I think he was doing a simple contacts thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was. They're all about sponsorships these days. But it was interesting because it was Liverpool winning, Liverpool going up 2-0, then it seems like maybe giving the game away but ending up with the result. But also a little bit interesting because it wasn't the typical Liverpool performance that we've seen.
The heavy metal football was maybe turned down from an 11 to an 8.
Yeah, it was constrained. Heavy metal,
and I think it was smart. So what we're talking about is, if you normally see Liverpool, they go after the other team when they've got the ball, right? They chase them almost all the way up the field. The midfielders will press, and there's nowhere to go. I think they didn't do that against PSG because they're scared of what happened if they bypassed them and went long. Kylian Mbappe is running in behind, just like he did for France at the World Cup.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely it. I think it's well, that's part of it at least. It's that you don't want to get beat on the break because they've got that pace and that technical ability. But I also think it's a product of expecting PSG to bunker and sit deep. And I mean, they sort of did that. You have Marquinhos playing as a holding midfielder.
Yeah.
That always indicates that maybe they're being a bit defensive in their approach. So I think Liverpool also...
Centre-backs in midfield, it's a giveaway, right?
I mean, you're right. But so if you look at the way Liverpool then played, both in terms of maybe holding off the press a little bit, but also when they did have the ball, the way they really just kind of had sustained possession for periods of time, and it wasn't that sort of get the ball forward, play fast. If we lose the ball, we lose the ball, but it's in their 18. It felt like it was much more designed to pull PSG out as much as they could.
In fact, I know this is jumping around a bit, but thinking about the PSG equaliser for 2-2, it's Mohamed Salah cutting the ball back to midfield instead of accelerating down the wing.
Yeah.
And remember, we saw it was the second time that he'd done that
inside like 2 minutes.
In 2 minutes. It seems to me that may be just part of Liverpool's plan, was to not go all out, too fast, too far all at once, but to even slow down the counter-attacks a little bit by cutting it back to the middle, maybe trying to encourage PSG to step out a little bit.
That could be. I think I do also
think
sometimes... Me on that? Well, it's partially that I think sometimes when they do that, when it's Salah cutting it back to the middle, I think a big part of Liverpool is... like right when the other team kind of thinks they know what you're doing, you change it up. So a lot of teams,
it's a regular Liverpool thing.
Yeah, it would be like Mohamed Salah gets the ball, bomb down the wing. He like smells blood in the water, thinks he can score. That's what a lot of teams would do. So everybody shifts over, and that's when Salah squares it. So then everybody has to shift back, and I feel like that's part of their game plan. The difference, though, I would say, was that when they're doing that, usually it's urgent. It's Salah like drives forward, but then lays it off, but then he continues his sprint forward. With both of these sequences that you mentioned, it's kind of drives forward, squares it, and then kind of holds up. Partially it's because he knows he's just played 2 bad passes in a row that have been intercepted.
Straight to Julian Draxler, right?
Yeah, well, one is straight to Julian Draxler. One, it's good work from Julian Draxler to intercept. But either way, it's the same thing. But I think you're right that the telltale thing for me was that it wasn't that everybody bombing forward as he was playing that ball central. It was everybody sort of jogging into their positions to retain possession.
And I think, in a weird way, even though that didn't work out for the equaliser, it did work out for Liverpool. That sort of calmness, that extra bit of restraint worked out for the winner, right? Because there's a lot of players that, even though the pressure is on, you're at Anfield, it's the first Champions League game of the season, you've given away a 2-0 lead, you've got this chance after the 90th minute. Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk, Roberto Firmino were all very, very calm and deliberate on the ball.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I mean, so do you want to go straight to this one then?
Yeah, let's do it, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, because it is from a corner, I believe, a Liverpool corner. PSG get the ball, Kylian Mbappe gets a little bit of criticism. Maybe
foolishly tried to nutmeg James Milner.
Maybe. I mean, depending on... Would you mean foolishly because it's James Milner? There we go. Yeah. Okay, in that case, then yes, definitely. But he definitely got He got a lot of stick for this one for the decision he made, which was basically... At the time, watching it live, it feels like he could have just dribbled towards the corner, towards the sideline, let everybody get back into good positions. Don't turn the ball over at the top of your box. But if you watch it again, you'll notice Trent Alexander-Arnold is blocking that option. He can't dribble into the sideline or he'll get dispossessed there, whereas he does have options in the middle if he's able to beat James Milner. That turns out to be a big old if.
And that's part of the reason Liverpool is so fearsome, right?
Yeah.
They can block off your options out wide, and then there's... Every person who plays central midfield for Liverpool is tough to beat one-on-one, right? So you really can get yourself in trouble, even if you are one of the greatest players in the world who recently won a World Cup.
Yes.
Yeah?
It's just, the fact of the matter is that Thomas Milner, he cannot be beaten by conventional weapons. Because how often have we seen that sequence happen where
by no woman born?
No, absolutely not. He's like it's Wayne's World 2 Keith Richards. Can't be killed by conventional weapons. But it's also the case that we've seen so many times when that like flashy player cuts back and does that sort of Cruyff turn that they end up getting fouled. And then it could easily have been a free kick. It's worth noting, like James Milner, because he is used to this high press system, knows how to put in a tackle but not leave a leg behind, not make like contact enough that it looks like a foul first and a tackle second. It always looked like a tackle first.
And to use a phrase that we like, he closed the door to his house.
Yes, he did.
But when you play for Liverpool, you do it as if the purge is coming.
Yeah, well said.
And then from there, this is the calmness we're talking about.
Close that gate.
That ball turns over, and then you see Joe Gomez half think about rushing a pass, and he literally pulls out mid-pass. I think takes a deep breath, possibly meditates, and then plays a simple pass to Virgil van Dijk, who plays a simple pass to Roberto Firmino, who then very calmly goes this way, that way, and then puts it in the bottom corner.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like that's a good way to describe what Firmino does. This way, that way, calmly puts it in. Great shot. I do think, though, in this sequence, you can see why Liverpool won and why PSG lost. Because Liverpool, it felt like they had this sort of calm, measured resolve of, okay, well, I'm going to play the simple pass. I'm not going to rush it. I'm not going to rush this pass either. I'm going to really pick out my options and see what I have. And it felt like PSG in response were getting the ball taken away from them at the top of the box, but then really scrambling in their defense. It didn't feel like anybody ever had a sense of, I am supposed to be marking this person.
Mm-hmm.
It
was
was
hard
everybody,
with Liverpool, right? Because they move so much. Yeah.
But it was everybody sort of trying to mark space, and it ends with 4 guys kind of standing in front of Firmino, but they're all just biting on the moves because they're so desperate not to get beat for pace or beat for skill that they're just focused on don't let the ball get away. So they're diving in on the ball, not the player. They end up losing the player. They end up scoring. And I would say if you extend it further, you could point to, yes, PSG were able to equalize off of that Mohamed Salah giveaway, but it's the same sequence both times. It's Draxler gets it, plays it to Neymar. PSG players kind of wait for Neymar to do what Neymar does. Both times he's dispossessed. It just happens to be that the second time it falls to Mbappe, who's able to finish.
Yeah, it's actually, in my opinion, Virgil van Dijk does everything correct. Tackles 100%. Neymar. Yeah. It's just very unfortunate that the ball pops loose to Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah, exactly. And Mbappe, it's a great finish, but it still is PSG sort of, I think, not like to say it was luckily getting into situations is too harsh, but it sort of is trying stuff, but not really having a plan and not having like the calm resolve across the team to figure out this problem.
Yeah.
Whereas Liverpool, I think, in 5 seconds calmed it down, and in those 5 seconds found a way to get that goal.
Weirdly then, is Neymar part of that problem? Because if he's always wanting to run at people and make something happen, then he's always, I mean, I know he's dangerous, but then he's always at risk of losing the ball as well, right?
He is, yeah. I mean, I think it depends on who the opposition is. I think this is probably the best team PSG have played so far this season.
That's fair,
and maybe he just needed that little wake up call reminder of, you can't dribble on everybody. Because I think maybe some French defenses would collapse on Neymar and would either foul or would create even more space for him to pass. Liverpool held their ground.
No Virgil van Dijk in Ligue 1. All respect to Ligue 1, but there's no Virgil van Dijk.
There is not.
Yeah. All right, the other game that was on TV, on TNT at least, was Barcelona versus PSV. I thought this was a weird choice to not go with Inter versus Spurs. That seemed like the more American-friendly game, not just because it's two bigger teams, with all respect to PSV.
I mean, this is the Fox model of Madrid, Barcelona, Man United.
Get those names on there.
Those are the teams that get TV.
I guess at some point it's like, do we show Messi or do we not show Messi?
Yeah.
Let's show Messi for our first game. And to be fair to TNT, they got a Messi hat-trick out of it.
They sure did, yes. But I don't want to start with Messi's hat-trick.
Okay.
I want to start with Ousmane Dembele.
Oh, so with all due respect to Messi, this Ousmane Dembele goal is the best goal of the 4.
Of the 4, yes. I thought you were going to say of the day. I might take issue with you on that one.
Well,
but this one is a lovely goal. Talk us through it, Mr. Grove. Do you remember?
So it's Ousmane Dembele. Right. It is 1-0 to Barca.
To clarify, I asked, do you remember? Because, again, I messed up the recording, so I feel kind of bad now being like, talk us through a goal that you might not remember because you already talked about it earlier.
I can remember.
Because you're a pro.
My medium-term memory is mostly good.
Okay.
So it's the...
You're mostly a pro.
It's the 74th minute or so. Barca are 1-0 up, so the game is not secure. Ousmane Dembele does multiple things that I like. First thing he does is he comes in from the left wing. He comes in and finds that little like half space thing we're talking about where you're not quite marked by anybody. Receives the ball, takes 2 touches with his right foot, draws in Hendricks and I believe Chucky Lozano.
You got it.
Both sort of come towards him. So
Yorit Hendricks, by the way.
Hendricks. Yes. So he's all right foot at this point, but we know Dembele's 2-footed, right, which is part of his charm.
Yeah.
Pulls off a really fast drag back, turn and go with his left foot. And I really think it takes Lozano and Hendricks by surprise because I know they know he's 2-footed, but it's that change of foot and change of direction all at once.
Does he know he's 2-footed? Ousmane Dembele? Because he does have that moment where he it's not a miscontrol, but it's not quite the way he wants to take it.
So what he does is he drags it back and turns with his left, and I think you can see him then try and take a touch with his left to accelerate away from Lozano and Hendricks. He kind of misses, he scuffs it, but the drag back was so good and so fast, and I think has confused the defenders so much, he's already away. He doesn't even need the extra touch that he thought he needed.
He doesn't,
right.
and I have to
Dembele's
believe...
better than he thinks he is.
Yeah, that's definitely
probably not true. He's a very confident man.
I mean, you don't know. But I will say for the first goal, the first Barcelona goal, it's a free kick from Dembele driving at the defense, getting tackled, earning a free kick. I just wonder if here he was like, all right, I'm not getting tackled this time. I'm going to shoot from even further out to make sure nobody tackles me. But it's the lovely, instep, but still kind of laces, driven finish that bends into the far side netting, past the outstretched goalkeeper. And whenever you've got the full stretch goalkeeper and it goes just past those fingertips, it always looks that much prettier.
Yeah. All right. Ousmane Dembele, as Graham Hunter was talking about, he's really fulfilling his promise, it seems, because he scored the winner this past weekend as well. All right, let's talk about Messi's hat-trick.
Sure.
What's your favourite goal of the three?
It's tough because they're all they all combine to be definitive Messi. You get
weird,
the
right?
different moments of Messi's brilliance in each of them.
Isn't that actually testament to Messi? Is that you can say this is definitive Messi, but they're all different?
But they're all three different goals? Yeah. But it's probably the first one for me, even though it was a talking point, the free kick, because it does look like maybe that wall ends up being set about 12 yards away.
Yeah, so
we had a few
yards.
questions about why that would be the case.
I mean, so first of all, as you point out, minimum of 10 yards is the rule. So it's not like it has to be 10 yards exactly. Second thing is, this is a weird thing in soccer where there's no official measurement tool, right?
Yeah.
You don't have, the ref doesn't have a laser pointer, he doesn't have the chains from the NFL. He just walks off what he thinks is about 10 yards, which is bizarre.
Yeah,
when you think that we have goal line technology and all that, the refs are just trusted to guess at 10 yards, basically.
It would be interesting. I'm sure someone's done this to measure out who does the best yard walking off.
Yeah.
Because we run
referee
practices.
ranking.
I try it all the time. I feel like my lines vary considerably, so I'd be curious to see who does the best 10 yards.
Do you just do 10 steps?
It's 10 big steps.
But then how big's your stride? How big's your foot?
It's probably a yard. Why not? I think that is the international measurement. Is one big step? It's probably a yard. So you have to get the in there.
If referees worked in constructions, we get some very wonky buildings.
I mean, maybe we already do. You don't know, Daryl. That might be how they measure them from old times to now. But so yes, it's a minimum of 10. You can make the argument that because the ball is just past the D at the top of the 18, that D is positioned 10 yards away from the penalty spot. The wall is set up right around the penalty spot, so maybe it's 11-ish, 11 and change to begin with.
Yeah.
But it's worth noting that PSV do not want to back off. They keep stepping forward. The referee has to tell them to back up a few times. And it makes me wonder if that's him sort of being all right, fine, I'm going to push you back even further. So if you cheat up again, at least then you're still where I drew that line initially. And by that point, the magic spray has faded. Yeah. So you still don't kind of have that line to give you the bearing. So I'm just saying it's not some conspiracy to make sure Messi has the room. No, and then the final point,
he doesn't need the help.
He doesn't need the help because that ball's going in no matter what. It is a perfectly hit free kick.
Yeah.
That's why I enjoy it so much because it's the up and down. It's still really difficult to do that from that distance. And there's just no chance. It's not the wall does anything wrong. They don't split it. It goes through them. The goalkeeper's not badly positioned. It's just perfectly hit with the power and the dip that you need.
Oh, Lionel Messi. Okay, and the other two goals, a lot of it is about combination play.
Yes.
Yeah?
It's
Rakitic with one assist and Suarez with the other.
You got it. Yeah. And with the second one, the reason why I say these are definitive Messi is because it's the ball spilling to Rakitic after a partial clearance from PSV, or maybe it's a deflected shot. But as soon as that ball is going to Rakitic, Messi, who's standing level to or maybe just behind Rakitic, is already at a full sprint because he just knows Rakitic knows where I'm going to be. I know where he's going to play that ball. And sure enough, even Rakitic, it's a little bit of a lift, and then he chips it over the top.
They both know, right?
Yep.
Messi knows what's coming, and Rakitic knows that Messi's going.
Yeah.
It's almost like cheating.
And so it is. But it's just that sort of, he goes from 0 to 60 so fast.
Yes.
And can get through the defense before they even know what's happening.
Yep. They'd love him on Top Gear.
They sure would. They would talk about it a lot. He's some sort of very fancy manual transmission, I'm guessing. But he's able to get there, and it's just the anticipation and awareness and acceleration, but then the calmness of the finish that's really impressive. And same thing goes for the third goal. It's again the relationship between Suarez and Messi, but it's him sort of ghosting through and then from a pretty tight angle, hitting a inch perfect, geometrically measured shot into the far side netting.
Yeah, if he wasn't a soccer player, he possibly could be some sort of mathematician.
He'd be the one checking the measurements for the buildings that are designed by yard steps.
Correcting the referees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the referees do what Messi says in the end.
Yeah, exactly. See? That's how it all works. All works.
Lots more Champions League to talk about, including a wonder goal from an Argentinian who was not at the World Cup, a goal for an American in the Champions League, and an assist for an American on his Champions League debut. But first, today's show is sponsored by The Athletic. The Athletic is sponsoring today's Total Soccer show. I have opened up the app.
Ooh,
you see?
The app is open.
I've done it. And we recently read, 5 minutes before we hit record today, we both read the panic rankings.
We sure did.
Adam Snavely's Premier League panic rankings. These might be the best ones yet.
Shakespearean,
They were. There's a Romeo and Juliet.
There sure is.
Paraphrasing, I guess, in the final segment.
Yep.
And there's also, not to give too many spoilers, but there's an imagining of Crystal Palace's reaction if Wilfried Zaha got injured in the United States.
Oh, medical bills. It's hilarious. I recently did that tweet that was like, for people who call it football and not soccer, do you also like use all these British terms?
Yeah.
And we had one person.
Corridor?
Yeah, we had one person. Like so then a bunch of people responded with their different terms, and the one that was most devastating was like, you say NHS, we say GoFundMe. That was slightly upsetting, but also accurate.
The GFM system.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I always recommend the panic rankings to anybody who will listen. Anything else that caught your eye on The Athletic this week?
I mean, given one of the games we're about to talk about, Michael Cayley has a good article about some of the problems that Spurs are experiencing right now, specifically in regards to their midfield.
Interesting.
Maybe that's worth reading. Maybe Mauricio Pochettino might want to give that one a look to figure out what might be going wrong.
There's also a story by Steph Yang. Steph Yang talking about the US women's national team general manager job, which we've definitely been overlooking, right? Because we've all been obsessed with when's Only Stewart taking charge, when's he going to pick a new head coach. The US women's national team has the opposite situation where they have a very established World Cup winning head coach who's definitely going to be in charge for the 2019 Women's World Cup. And they're going to install a general manager above Jill Ellis, which is really interesting, right?
I mean, it makes sense if you're doing it for the men's team, you would want to do it for the women's team, and vice versa. You'd want to have that same parallel structure.
It's the long-term setup, right, to have symmetry, I guess.
But it also, to your point about the differences between the two sides, it also makes sense as to why they're appointing that general manager and when they are, because it's you're
winter
waiting.
of 2018, but they don't really get going until after the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. That's
not
the
to
key
give
point.
too much of Steph's writing away.
It's fine. I'm sure maybe she's okay with it, but I say that just because it makes sense to appoint a person now, but then, or in the winter, but then you don't really want them to feel the need to, say, renew Jill Ellis because she won the World Cup. We want to make sure she stays here. We've seen that go badly in the past, so it makes sense to sort of have it be, we're going to see it out through the World Cup, then we'll start anew. Maybe Jill Ellis gets a new contract, maybe she doesn't, but you don't really want to change things up right now or risk continuing things the way they are right now.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're not giving away words for free, but we are giving them for 60% of what they should cost.
Okay.
So we are giving 40% off a subscription to The Athletic. Here's how you get it.
How do you get it?
You get it by going to, theathletic.com/TSS September. Theathletic.com/TSS September, as Taylor has memorably put it, to get 40% off a subscription. And if you take your subscription to The Athletic, then one, you are getting the best soccer writing. I really believe that. Two, you are supporting the best soccer writers because The Athletic pays its rights as well. And three, you're supporting us because the more people sign up through Total Soccer Show, the more ads The Athletic buy.
Yeah.
Buys. There we go.
All of that checks out. With that said, I'm going to say 25% of my brain during that was occupied trying to write a jingle for TSS September.
I think you just did it. I think you just did it.
There we go.
You used the standard jingle melody there.
How dare you?
Hey.
Don't diminish my jingle writing abilities.
Calls it like I see it.
That's
the
fair.
link to theathletic.com, TSS September.
There we go.
Will be
it's catching on.
In the show.
It's spreading.
Notes.
It's an earworm.
Should we talk Inter versus Spurs before we talk young Americans in the Champions League?
We should clarify, though, that this is one of the games. I think at one point, it's a testament to the streaming services, front like BR Live, that we had, I believe, 3 different games streaming at one point. So
yeah, because the satellite went out because of the storm. We should mention the tornadoes touched down in Richmond
they did.
on Monday while we were recording. We were not smart. We kept recording. We didn't really know how bad it was. We got lucky and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Is basically what happened.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to everybody who reached out on Twitter to just say, hey, you guys okay?
Yeah.
Because that made the news that tornadoes were touching down in Richmond, Virginia.
We've got all this this wall of glass right here.
Yeah,
What's
I'm
the
sure
worst that could happen? We're fine.
I could walk you through
We have a nice heavy desk. It's what you use to survive a nuclear apocalypse. We all know that from elementary school, so I'm sure it will work for a tornado as well.
But that theory the duck and cover theory hasn't been fully tested.
Yeah, that's probably right. And I don't want to volunteer for that. But I do remember going into the hallway or the corridor, depending on where you're from, in elementary school. And
Whether you say soccer
put your
or
head
football.
between your knees. That was our tornado prep.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. All right, so Inter beat Spurs 2-1 after Spurs took the lead through Christian Eriksen deflected goal.
Yes, and the reason why I brought up all of the streaming sites that services we were using was just to clarify that this is one that we didn't pay as particular attention to.
Yes.
Because we had one on the TV, 3 games going on different monitors. So we can't really say, like, this is definitely what happened. These were the rhythms of play and why this ended up being the case.
But we did see Mauro Icardi's goal.
goal.
Wow.
Yep.
What a strike.
I mean, I loved everything about it. It's one of my favorite types of volleys where I think I happened to be here watching it live. You came in, I made you rewatch it, and you kept being like, where's Icardi? Where's Icardi? Yeah. I was like, you'll know when you see. You'll know when you see. Because he wasn't on screen. It's one of those where it goes out wide, the cross comes in, but it's that looping cross back across to the top of the box, and then there's Icardi, hits it first time, through traffic. It is a laser of a strike, and I loved every second of it.
Can you
Even if it only lasted like 1.5 seconds.
Can you say anything about the technique? I'm curious about how he hits this and gets that sort of slice on it.
Get your hips over it. That's the lesson as always.
Is that it? So it doesn't go slicing off like a horrible golf tee.
I mean, leaning back means your momentum is leaning you forward, or like you're leaning up, so you're always going to swing through and hit that ball high. He gets over the ball as he hits it. That's why he takes it down. But he doesn't get too far over it because then you're hitting it into the ground and then it's bouncing. It's like the perfect technique and obviously hit true with the laces.
Oh, maybe one day he'll get to do that kind of thing at the World Cup.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe, probably not at all. But it's also like this is a game worth just spending a couple more minutes on, just because it is, if you're a Spurs fan especially, I would say it's pretty troubling because it is Spurs going up 1-0 and then losing very late in a way that maybe was preventable, but it feels again like what we talked about with PSG, where in those final seconds, it's just people losing their mark. Serge Aurier doesn't stick with Vecino, and then basically I think he kind of knows he's lost his man, so he really does try to step to somebody else to be like, oh, I'm marking this person now. But Vecino loses...
Posterize somebody else.
Yeah, Vecino Vecino. I never know with that one. Loses him, but then holds his ground, kind of stands unmarked, ball comes back across, he's able to put it in the back of the net. It's a good header, but it is that lack of consistency in those final few minutes from Spurs that really cost them.
It's weird though, right? Because Spurs are the more experienced Champions League team, this current squad, than Inter is.
Yeah. Maybe there's something to be said for being the favorite, for being the likely contender. Puts a little bit more pressure on you. You want to get that result early.
All right, so Inter 2, Spurs 1. Let's talk Americans.
Let's do it.
I'll let you choose which American do you want to talk about.
I want to talk about Weston McKennie.
Weston McKennie. All right, so Weston McKennie got that bruised knee, I believe, or knee contusion while playing for the United States. Didn't play for Schalke at the weekend, but then he's back in the starting 11 for his Champions League debut as Schalke host Porto.
He was.
Not only is he in the 11, I think he's in his best position.
And kind of another new position, though, still?
Yeah, but
the way the season's gone?
I think this is the best one, because so far we've seen him play as like a deep number 6. We've seen him play right back for Schalke. Where he played here was in a 3-5-2 as the left centre mid. And he got to do a lot of his number 8 stuff, like busting up and down. He got to pull wide a little bit and be a bit more creative on there. And he got to just get himself in the box and in the attack a lot more. I think this is his spot.
So I don't disagree with you, but I'm just to clarify, why do you say this is his best spot? And I don't mean like he was able to do the things he likes. I mean more specifically, like, do you think that suits his skill set? Is it about being the box-to-box midfielder?
Yeah.
Is it about the freedom he has? What do you think it is specifically?
I think it's the freedom to join the attack.
Gotcha.
I think it's his, weirdly, I mean, we talk about this with the goal, his aerial ability, I think is oddly important in midfield. He seems to win a lot of balls in the air that you wouldn't expect him to win and make tackles you wouldn't expect him to succeed at. I think it's much better to be doing that higher up the field.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's strange to think about that. Like I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned the flicked on header he has that kind of eventually leads to the goal.
Because he flicks it on, then receives it, and then lays the assist on for Bril Embolo for Schalke's goal.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
But every part of it's kind of similar to the Messi thing. It is like every part of this sequence that leads to the goal for McKennie it's like it plays to his strengths. It's he's good in the air. He knows how
weirdly good in the air.
Yeah, it's a smart flick, and it's a smart flick in the sense that it's not to a specific player. It's not, oh, I know this player's behind me, so I'll flick it on. It's a desperation clearance after I believe Hector Herrera, was dispossessed, ball cleared, and then basically it's just flicking on. You want to keep the play going. You don't want to give it right back to Porto. But here, because he gets that flick, the Porto defenders are caught off guard. And then Schalke are away, but then it's McKennie when he gets that ball back. It's him.
Is it Ut? I can't remember actually who gives it back. I think it might be Ut.
Yeah. It's Ut. It's flicked on, and then he wins it, and then he plays it in. But it's McKennie then recognizing that speed isn't one of his strong suits. He's not going to outrun a particularly pacey player. And so it's the awareness then to know, okay, well then I'm going to play a smart ball after battling to get the ball. I'm going to play it just back across, and he's going to make like smart decisions, but still getting into the attack, but still helping link up the attack.
Yep.
I think this whole goal speaks to Weston McKennie's abilities.
And so that's that first time, which is important. Square pass to Embolo, who scores, so McKennie gets the assist.
Yeah.
Packing stat of maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Like you really, rather than trying to dribble through 2 or 3 players, just cuts them all out.
And he wouldn't have.
With one quick pass.
Yeah. And it
he
is...
might have. I mean, the odds were against him. He made the right choice.
Because I think
the pass was the right choice.
It absolutely was, because if he tried to because he would have had to cut inside a little bit to be able to get the shot. Even then, it's going to be at a tight angle. But the defender had come across very well to cover. So I think if he takes that extra touch, that ball gets cleared out for probably a corner kick. If he cuts it back, then he slows up the counter and he lets everybody get back into the right position. Because he just plays that first time, maybe it's a little bit overhit, but it still makes everybody scramble back across. The goalkeeper who's covering the near post has to sprint to get to the far post. Defenders all have to sprint across. Breel Embolo maybe means to hit the shot he hits, maybe doesn't, but either way, because everybody's scrambling, it just almost insultingly rolls between 3 players into the goal.
I've watched this goal a few times. I quite enjoy how everybody's running in one direction. Embolo kind of slowly puts it back in the other direction.
Yeah, he does.
And you can see them all desperately spinning around, trying to turn around and go back after the ball, but it's all too late.
It's all too late.
I feel like for those defenders, that happened in slow motion.
Probably.
I hope they figure it out before they sign for Wolves. So McKennie's team, actually Porto got an equaliser through a penalty kick, I believe.
After missing a penalty earlier, or having a penalty saved, yeah.
So it finishes 1-1. Schalke still do not have a win, but McKennie has his position, so...
They got a point in the Champions League. That's one more point than they have in the Bundesliga.
Starting to feel better. Our other young American hero, Christian Pulisic, did not start for Borussia Dortmund away to Colin Farrell's least favourite team, Club Brugge. But he did come off the bench for the last 20 minutes to replace Jadon Sancho.
That's a solid joke.
And scored the winner.
He did, and he knew all about it from start to finish.
Yeah, okay. He essentially tackles, I can't remember, it's number 15 for Bruges, I can't remember his name, but Pulisic basically tackles a defender just outside the 6-yard box, or blocks a defender's clearance.
He blocks, yeah. It's basically, it's like they're both going for it. The defender gets to it first, but he plays it off Pulisic's shin. It goes up in the air and somehow drops just between the goalkeeper and the top bar into the goal.
Pulisic watches it all the way and follows it just in case there's any type of save. So even though this isn't obviously the greatest goal Pulisic will ever score,
says you,
I still kind of like it, weirdly. I like that he was the weapon, the injured weapon that they brought back from injury, brought off the bench to make a difference in an important Champions League game, right? A win away to Bruges is huge for Dortmund. It gets them off to a great start. So I love that he was their go-to, right?
Yeah.
And it was a lift for Dortmund to get this injured player back. But I also like that he... Even though it's essentially just a block that goes in the end, he also does start the move. I think he starts out on the right and passes it inside and then makes an interior run. I think it's Marco Reus tries to get a pass back to him. So I quite like his attacking instinct there. It all speaks to Pulisic's seniority, rising seniority within this Dortmund team.
But I think a key thing you pointed out there is that it starts with him on the right. And that's the thing that we've talked about. I know it's been a hotly debated topic, is should he play central for the U.S.?
Yeah.
And I think it's worth remembering that he isn't that flashy player. He's not going to take 8 people on and try to beat them with skillful trickery. He is going to do the job you need him to do. He's going to work hard on the wing. He'll cut inside. He'll get some shots off. And I do think that's where he best fits Dortmund and maybe best fits the United States as well.
I mean, I'd say he can beat people with trickery, but it's more about pace and cutting, right? It's not about imaginative playmaking, right?
Yeah, I'm not trying to say he can't do a step over.
Yeah, he definitely can do a step over.
But that's not his primary weapon.
Yeah, and so if you play him central and you think of him as a playmaker, say for the US national team, you kind of lose one of the key things that makes Christian Pulisic so 100%. Effective, which is his hustle, right? And part of that goal is hustle. It's just getting in the way of a clearance. Yeah. That's one of the reasons Christian Pulisic is such an important player and such a competitor at such a young age, is that the kid has hustle.
Find a way to win.
Find a way to win, right? It's not always about imagination. It's great to have playmakers and number 10s, but Pulisic is is that guy who's going to hustle and find a way to win. That's what he did for Dortmund away to Bruges.
Yes, and that's why they won. There we go. It all ties together. I was momentarily switching the scores and thinking they drew. So I was like, well, they didn't find a way to win. But no, they did. All right, we're good.
So other games did happen, but we didn't get to watch all of them. This was kind of a Champions League roundup of what we did see.
Yes.
Right? Well, I think we're trying to be trying to do some self-care at the Total Soccer Show where we don't try and watch everything and hurt ourselves.
Yeah, no.
Yeah?
I couldn't handle that. No.
So this is what we saw on Tuesday.
We saw like quick little highlights of Diego Costa scoring off a great flick from Antoine Griezmann. But
very nice.
Again, we didn't watch that enough to be able to talk about it with any level of expertise or information.
All right, and we are wrapping up just in time for us to watch Ajax versus AEK, I believe is what we're gonna watch. The 12:55 game on TNT. We will be back this evening, with another Champions League roundup. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again later today.